Now let's get some post-analysis from an expert on North Korea. We have Dr. Bong Young-shik, a researcher at the Yonsei Institute for North Korean Studies, joining us in the studio today. Welcome to the program.
Pleased to be here.
So it's been 3 days since the summit came to an end with no agreement, and while we're still waiting for dust to settle on the issue, South Korea and the U.S. have announced that the key resolve on Full Eagle joint exercises will be put to an end. The defense authorities say that the decision reflects a resolve to keep the dialogue going, and despite the breakdown in the summit earlier this week, what did you make of the latest announcement?
The latest announcement to end the two major, joint military exercises and merge them into one in smaller scale proves the persistent position jointly held by South Korea and the United States that diplomatic resolution of North Korea's missile and nuclear problems must be the top priority. And their joint military exercises and other actions are designed to complement that effort. So diplomacy is the first option and the best option to deal with nuclear North Korea, and the military options will remain a secondary option until diplomatic effort will be totally exhausted.
So there's a lot of speculation as to why these talks fell through. U.S. President Donald Trump said that North Korea demanded the lifting of all sanctions, while North Korea contradicted that, saying that it only asked for partial relief. At this stage, how do you see these two contrasting remarks?
Well, it is only natural for both governments to shove the burden of responsibility for the breakdown of the Hanoi Summit meeting to the other side. United States argued that a North Korean delegation was unable to explain clearly what would constitute abandoning the Yongbyon nuclear complex, because Yongbyon nuclear complex has 390 buildings, and it is as large as 3 square kilometers. So abandoning nuclear facilities, the uranium enrichment facility and the plutonium facility in Yongbyon complex, from the standpoint of the United States, would not be equal to abandoning the entire Yongbyon complex. And the North Korean side did not respond to the question, what would constitute the entire Yongbyon complex. So United States team must have found it very difficult to accept very ambiguous proposal from North Korea. And the price demanded by North Korea for abandoning the Yongbyon complex was also too high to pay for the United States, because although North Korean team said that they only demanded 5 most recent United Nations Security Council resolutions, and not all 5, but within the 5 resolutions, only the clauses related to the livelihood of North Korean people. But when United States team did a calculation allowing North Korea those would amount to multiple billion US dollars every year. So the sanction will no longer bite North Korea. Then North Korea leadership would not have the incentive to, give up nuclear weapons and missiles once those 5, demands would be, accepted by the United States. So one positive sign is that both sides clarify what they really wanted, and both sides now understood what kind of price they had to pay in order to get what they wanted. So everything was not lost in the collapse of the Hanoi Summit meeting.
So like you said, the 2016 and 17 sanctions imposed on the North were one of the strongest sanctions imposed on the regime yet. Would you also say there was a lack of preparation on any part? Some foreign media reports cited North Korean watchers saying that even before the talks took place, like weeks before, there were signs that the talks could break down. What's your take on this, and do you think the summit itself should have been put off until working level negotiations produce some sort of agreement?
No, I don't think so. It was better for the summit meeting to be held as scheduled in Vietnam because for North Korea, North Korea needed to have the breakthrough that would ease the pressure of economic sanctions as soon as possible. So it is interest of North Korean leadership to have this summit meeting with the U.S. president as scheduled. For the United States, the working level meetings have been rather postponed because North Korean side did not show any enthusiasm in giving the working level meetings at least a chance for success. It was only very recent that North Korea actually appoint the counterpart of Mr. Stephen Biegun, the special envoy representative for the Trump administration to lead the working level meeting on behalf of the United States. So if there is a responsibility to be assessed, then North Koreans have to blame themselves. One, they did not give the working level meetings at least a chance to sort out all the difficult and complex technological and financial issues prior to the meeting between the two top leaders. And two, North Koreans were not really well prepared compared to the United States. United States team was ready to consider actually walking out of the summit meeting as a least option, and actually there was the option exercised by Trump, U.S. President Donald Trump. But it seems like Chairman Kim Jong-un was never prepared for that kind of dramatic ending of the summit meeting.
So it's without a doubt that South Korean President Moon Jae-in now has heavy shoulders. Trump has asked Moon to play an active role to facilitate future dialogue between North Korea and the U.S. And it must have been a huge disappointment on South Korea's part because it had been seeking to expedite inter-Korean cooperation. What do you see coming from President Moon's part now?
Well, we have to carefully and correctly interpret the request by U.S. President Donald Trump to South Korean President Moon Jae-in that South Korea would facilitate the dialogue between the United States and North Korea. That does not mean that U.S. President would ask South Korean President to give any signal that United States would be willing to lower the power of expectation or demand for North Korea. I think the gist of the request by the United States is to clarify the expectations held by the United States about easing economic sanctions in exchange for verifiable and substantial denuclearization action by North Korea. So South Korea needs to be very clear, objective, and neutral between the two countries in delivering the correct messages. If South Korea's mediation would create inflated or incorrect kind of expectation on either side, whether it's North Korea or the United States, then South Korea's role and influence as an honest broker or facilitator for dialogue and negotiation between North Korea and the United States would be quite minimal.
Do you see the possibility of another inter-Korean summit sometime soon?
Definitely, right. I think it's very possible and even necessary, but it wouldn't be a major scale inter-Korean summit meeting like President Moon's visit to Pyeongyang or the Panmunjom summit meeting between Kim and Moon last April. It'll be very focused on current issues. Something very similar to the second meeting between President Moon Jae-in and Chairman Kim Jong-un in Panmunjom, because South Korea need to, deliver the message from Washington in objective manner. What kind of actions must be followed by North Koreans in order to persuade the United States government to resume meaningful dialogue, and South Korean government also needs to listen to North Koreans' position and demands to be delivered to Washington as soon as possible.
So North Korean media had also had extensive coverage of the summit itself and Kim Jong-un's visit to Vietnam overall. And regarding the talks with President Trump, it said they were productive, and it's left out any criticism of the U.S. What do you think Pyongyang's intentions are?
Pyongyang's intentions to describe the collapse of Hanoi summit meeting a success include that they want to maintain the line of dialogue and negotiation with Washington even after this Hanoi summit meeting. And second, North Korean media and government cannot describe the collapse of Hanoi summit meeting a failure. The supreme leader of North Korea is not supposed to fail in anything, and Kim Jong-un actually inflated the expectation by publicly advertise his departure to meet U.S. President Donald Trump in Hanoi. And his trip to Hanoi was described as a long march, like long march of the Chinese Communist Party during the Civil War, to save the nation and alleviate the pains of North Korean people. Now he is coming back with empty hands. But if you describe it objectively as a failure to achieve the main goal, which is to persuade the United States to lift economic sanctions, then the authority of the supreme leader of North Korea will be shattered and hugely damaged. North Korean government cannot afford that. So it is only natural of the media to describe the Hanoi visit as a huge success.
So some have actually said it was good for Trump to walk out of the deal rather than make bad deal or too much concessions, and that showing that his desire for substantive actions on denuclearization is important because it showed that Kim Jong-un has been ignoring U.S. negotiators, as you have said previously. What's your take on this?
Right. Well, the bottom line is that no deal is better than a bad deal. So in that regard, you can call that President Trump's decision to walk out of the negotiation a success. But even those who describe it as a right choice would not be totally satisfied with the outcome of the Hanoi summit meeting because in the new reality, North Korea still possesses, nuclear weapons, facilities, know-how, and intercontinental ballistic missiles that can, theoretically speaking, reach the mainland of the United States. So the threat component of North Korea has not been reduced or removed at the Hanoi summit meeting. In that regard, Trump's decision to walk out of the room cannot be described as a 100% success. But at the same time, the upsides include that United States show that North Korea better not ignore or dismiss the working level negotiations because it is now proven that there's no gap between the top leadership and the working level group of the United States. They work together in the Hanoi summit meeting. So North Korea's previous strategy to only target the top leadership, the President Trump, will no longer be as effective as it might have been. And second, time does not favor North Korea, as well demonstrated in the very impatient attitude of Kim Jong-un during the summit meeting. North Korean economy is really hurting. It's really hurting under the pressure of economic sanctions. So North Korea learned the lessons that, one, they need to take the working groups of the United States very seriously, and two, United States is really adamant in terms of economic sanctions.
So more on North Korea's part in terms of sincerity as well when it comes to working level negotiations. But it seems for now that both sides at least want to keep the door open for dialogue. And now that both sides know for sure that what each other wants, some have said that this is actually progress itself. Do you think that working level negotiations will be able to better close the gap between the two from now on? And what do you see as a middle point?
Well, I think the working level negotiations has a better chance for success because it is very difficult for top leaders to be conversant with very difficult and complex technological, diplomatic, and financial issues involving United Nations Security Council resolutions or nuclear complex and facilities. Can you really expect a president or prime minister to be able to discuss those, specific matters
Yes, it's tricky.
in the span of like 3 hours. So those issues must be sorted out at the working levels. And now North Koreans must have become more willing to take that approach. So in that regard, the negotiations at the lower level of the government between the two countries have a better chance for success. And the middle point is like a partial relief of economic sanctions by the United States in exchange for some kind of denuclearization effort by North Korea that would allow reliable verification by the United States. Then that would be a good starting point or middle point to start with for both countries.
And just before I let you go, do you perhaps see a harder approach from the U.S. part on North Korea in the future negotiations?
I don't think so. I don't think the United States will harden its approach to North Korea. Judging from the remark by U.S. President Donald Trump at the press conference after the collapse talk in Hanoi that he does not want to increase sanctions or pressure, and now we have to take him with his word. And as I said, that both leaders departed in a very amicable, atmosphere. That means the door remains open for diplomacy and dialogue between the two countries. So I don't think the United States is going to increase the pressure on North Korea. It doesn't need to, as long as it holds on to existing economic sanctions. And North Korea remains quite willing to engage again with the United States for negotiation.
So we'll have to keep close tabs on the developments. That's all the time we have for. Thank you for your insights.
You're welcome.